Hi, I'm John Gregg. We're glad you've joined us today. We're going to talk about Traditional Arts Indiana and the Indiana Arts Commission. We're going to hear some really great music, going to tell a story or two. So I go freshen up my tea. Come join us on the porch. Neighbor Tom, I'm glad you stopped by today.
Yeah, I just wanted to get another glass of tea and hear another story.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, I know the last time you were by, we saw Mom. She stopped out, and that just kind of reminded me of something that happened when I was a child. Mom was always pretty strong-willed. For a stay-at-home mom, she worked in Dad's business. She was strong-willed, would speak her mind and speak up. And you know, when you and I were young, there were some topics people just didn't talk about. I mean, they still don't do a good job talking about race, but they didn't talk about alcoholism, drug usage, spousal abuse, things like that. It was just like it didn't exist, and it was that way all over the country. And we had a guy that lived there in town, pretty close by us. I'm going to call him Clay. That wasn't his name, but he was an alcoholic, and he was a mean one. And he had married a woman a little younger than him and had two little boys, about 5 and 6. They may have been twins. It's hard for me to remember. But he was mean, and I mean physically mean, to these kids. And my mother and 2 other neighbor women had seen it a couple of times, and they had talked and decided the next time something happened, they were going to do something about it. So it was a Saturday. I was home. I think I might have been a freshman in college. And he was drunk and was being mean to the kids, and my mother called the Knox County Sheriff's Department. And in no time at all, there was a sheriff's deputy up here. But you know, this has been 50 years ago, and the deputy just talked to him a little bit, and in 5 minutes, the deputy's gone. Well, old Clay's mad, you see, and he trots down to our house, comes up to the back door, and Dad had seen him coming, so he decides he's going to answer the door, and he rings the doorbell, and Dad goes back there and asks Clay what he wants, and he's intoxicated. He goes, "I want to talk to that wife of yours." He said, "She's sticking her nose in my business." And Dad said, "Clay, you just need to go on home, sober up, and you know, you can talk to her later if you want to, but you're not going to talk to her now. I want to talk to June. She's got to quit talking and calling and get me in trouble." And Dad just said, "It's not going to happen." Well, at that time, all out of nowhere, Mom comes and just shoves Dad away. And she's standing there almost face to face with him there right outside the door. And she points her finger at him and she says, "Clay, you son of a bitch, I want you to know that you will stoke the fires of hell for what you do." And, you know, it was spellbinding. He just shut up, turned, and went home. But, you know, I tell that because what Mother taught me in that moment, and I was 18 and, you know, started college, and like a lot of young people, you think you know everything, but she taught me a real important lesson. No matter how difficult and how unpopular something may be, you always want to stand up for something that you know is right.
True.
Well, you never know what interesting friends are going to stop by on the porch. And today I've got with me Miah Michaelson from the Indiana Arts Commission and Professor John Kay with Traditional Arts Indiana. Thank you both for coming by.
Oh, glad to be here, John. Thanks for asking.
Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Now let me ask you each a little something personal here. Okay. Miah, what got you interested in the arts?
Oh gosh, my father was an actor and also a painter and illustrator, and got into theater in high school, and after that I was hooked.
You were hooked.
Yeah, I was hooked.
So did you major in?
I did, majored in theater in college,
Okay.
and recognized after a while that I really enjoyed being helping people facilitate arts experiences as opposed to being on the stage. And so I moved into arts administration, been there ever since. But arts is a passion, and I'm not on stage anymore, but I sure love helping arts experience happen around the stage.
And how do you do that, just real quickly? Or we can talk about that later, because I think you're going to have a lot to tell us about that. Professor, I want you to tell me what got you. You're a Brown County boy. Why didn't you get into farming or logging or tourism?
Well, I've probably bumped up against a few of those things over the years, but my grandfather was a big influence on me. And we'd go ginsenging. He loved to hunt mushrooms. He told all types of stories. And I found out that all types of things that were around, old crocks and tools and things, all of them had stories that went along with them. And I enjoyed that. And I remember when I went away to college, I stumbled into this class with a man by the name of Warren Roberts called Indiana Folklore, and which is, of course, I now teach at IU. And all of a sudden I realized all those great stories that my grandfather told me and all the crafts and things that he was interested in, there's a whole academic discipline that's built around that. And so I became really enamored with being able to research those everyday creative practices of people.
Well, you both have fascinating backgrounds. Tell me a little bit about how you both interact, but also tell me what you do, where you get your funding. I just want to hear all about all of it. So, like, how are you funded?
Sure, I'll start if that's all right. So we're this Indiana Arts Commission. We're an agency of state government. We get the bulk of our funding from the Indiana General Assembly. So thanks for the time when you were in the legislature, John, for supporting the Arts Commission. And we also receive support from the National Endowment for the Arts. And our mission is to make Indiana stronger through arts and creativity. And we do that in a lot of different ways.
You know, I work at the law firm I'm with at Ice Miller. We have a lot of corporate clients, and when corporate clients are thinking about locating, they talk quality of life, and they do want to know about the arts. So that's my pitch, I guess, to my former legislative colleagues. I know that they always need to think about a little bit more funding in the arts, because those of us in a rural area and in small towns, we like the nice cultural things too.
Absolutely. We're hearing from more and more communities across the state, especially smaller places, how they want to build up their own arts and cultural and creative assets in their communities as opposed to having to travel to a bigger city to experience something. So we're seeing a lot more concert series and farmers markets with live music and embracing traditional arts, which John will talk about here in a few minutes. Thinking about creative people as entrepreneurs, lots of ways that the arts and creativity can enrich communities. And when people love where they live, they stay where they are, they invest in it, they volunteer more, and they vote more. So lots of great outcomes when you have lots of arts and creativity in a community.
And let's talk about traditional arts Indiana. I'm thinking when you said telling stories, are we talking about the guy that plays the fiddle and the person that sings and quilts?
Traditional Arts Indiana, it's a statewide folk arts program that exists to identify, document, and promote the folk and traditional arts. And since I'm a folklorist, I see art in just about everything that people do. So I work with ballet folklorico dancers up in East Chicago, up near the Indiana-Chicago-Illinois border.
The region,
yeah.
On down to Zapotec Weaver in Indianapolis, to bluegrass fiddling down in Bean Blossom, to gospel music in Indianapolis, just all around the state. And that's just the music side of things. I also do crafts, traditional stories that people tell. We exist to basically to promote those everyday creative practices that make our communities special and meaningful to ourselves.
And you've been doing a study on how that helps aging. And since I'm in that AARP membership age, I'm not taking my Social Security yet. You've all done some studying on how the arts help people age, and we want to talk a little bit about that when we come back, but I want to know what Zapotec weaving is.
It's from Oaxaca, Mexico. It's an ethnic minority there that does this traditional weaving. I work with a rag rug weaver from Brownstown, Indiana. Her family's made rag rugs here in Indiana for 5 generations.
Wow.
I would imagine Marcos, the Zapotec weaver, could trace back 15, 16 generations of weaving traditions. And he married a girl from Indiana and ended up living here in Indianapolis area. You know, everyone brings their traditions here. So when I say traditional arts
Wow.
Indiana, I'm not just talking about old time Indiana. I have some of that.
Modern.
I work with Miami artisans and Pokagon Potawatomi artisans, but I also work with new immigrants. I just last week was making a documentary with a group of Burmese weavers up in Indianapolis.
Oh, wow. Well, I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about art's influence as we age. So stay with us here on the porch. Well, I know, Professor, that if you're studying aging, you got to have money. So where does your money come from? We know where Miah's come from. Where does yours come from?
For Miah.
I want to get to know Miah.
We couldn't do what we do without three major sources of income. The first and greatest partner that we have is the Indiana Arts Commission. We wouldn't exist without the support that they give us. And so most of our operating funds come from them, as well as some pass-through money from the National Endowment for the Arts. And so those are the two sources of funds that fund the programs and work that we do. In addition to that, the Indiana University funds us. They fund my position, they fund my grad assistants, and my grad assistants have gone on to become state folklorists all over the United States. I think now of the 50 states, 8 of them are my former students, and they've been trained right here in Indiana.
Well, that's great.
John and I were just talking in the green room a few minutes ago, and we recognize that we've been doing this, partnering together for 24 years. Next year will be our 25th. So we're so excited. We got to figure out a way to celebrate that great partnership
I'm all for that.
between the two.
Well, tell me, I want to get on this because as I've lived here in Sanborn all my life, and as the town's gotten smaller from 650 to 350, however, I can still go to places where I'm the youngest one in the room at 68, and I know I don't look a day over 65. But let's talk about the arts and aging, because I know you've studied that.
Right. Do you want me to take this?
Yeah, take it.
It's really, really important, and I think it's the most important aspect of the arts right now for us here in Indiana. In the United States, in the world, we're experiencing this major shift in aging. There are now more people over the age of 55 than under the age of 18 for the first time in human history.
Wow.
And that's a permanent change that has happened. You marry that shift that's happened in our aging demographics with the fact that we have this pandemic, not one from a virus, but one from chronic feelings of boredom, isolation, and loneliness, and feelings of helplessness that people are experiencing. Here in Indiana, there's this Gallup poll that is done. Indiana often comes up between 42 and 47 in the quality of life of older adults. And so trying to support the
That's not
arts.
good.
No, that's not good. But the arts are one of the things that we can do to help instill a sense of purpose, meaning, and mastery. You think about those 3 plagues. Loneliness. If you're playing music at a local jam session, or if you're getting together with a quilting guild or just doing something like that, how can you be lonely? Or even when you're working at home, you're thinking about sharing things with people other places. When you're the opposite of being bored, which is the second plague, is being engaged and getting into that state of flow. And the craftspeople I work with, they are able to spend their time focused on something for a meaningful period of time. And helplessness. How can you feel helpless when you're able to sit down and play a fiddle tune? Or how can you feel helpless when you're able to make something out of practically nothing, carving it from wood or making a basket or something like that? And so the arts are worth way more than just an economic driver or tourism or something like that. It's part of our humanity, and it's basically what's going to keep us healthy and well later in life. And I'm get me on my preaching soapbox here. I think that that's the true value of the arts, of what it does
Wow.
for us as people.
And we have over the last year partnered on a program that we call Lifelong Arts, where we're training artists to serve older Hoosiers, teaching them how to do that. There's a specific way to work with older people related to how you share skills and creativity in the arts. And we provided fellowships for them to go out around the state to provide those experiences in area aging centers as well as retirement homes and so forth. And we hope in the future to be able to expand that program so every small place, no matter where it is, has access to an artist to come in and work with older adults and how to be creative.
You know, when you talked about isolation, Mom's 91 and she would have been 89 when COVID hit. And the isolation, because for that first couple months, you know, nobody knew really what was going on. So we did not go in her house at all, and we would stand out on her back porch and talk to her from 10 foot away. And we realized the isolation, because Mother's very social, was taking a toll on her, and it was bothering her. And so we just decided that we were going to have to extend our visits, and it was cold, you know, in March and February. We were just going to have to extend our visits longer because it does make a difference. And it's so interesting because, you know, as a small town kid, to me, art meant you had to go to Indianapolis. And what you're telling me is art's everywhere. And I do know art is everywhere now.
Yeah.
So you're winning that battle. It's just a tough one.
Right, it takes some time. And, you know, something that John does as well, not only working in creative aging, is elevating elder artists. A big initiative on how to provide a platform and recognition of all the older artists who are still practicing in the stage. John, you want to say
Yeah, we have
about that?
two major initiatives that we do that are related to that. One is our apprenticeship program, where a master artist passes on their traditional knowledge to the next generation, and we fund that to make sure that there's that intergenerational shift of knowledge. Well, it's great that that younger person is learning from that elder how to do something. I guarantee you that older artist is getting just as much out of it as the young person. The other thing we do is we have our Indiana Heritage Fellowships, and that's a lifetime achievement award for artist who practices a traditional or folk art in their community. And we've done African American quilting, we've done bowl hewing, we've done bluegrass music, we've done all different types of traditional arts from here in Indiana.
It sounds like you touch on a little of everything, and we're going to want to see some of these artisans as we go forward here on the porch. John Kay, you never cease to amaze me. You and all of your talent from Traditional Arts Indiana got us great music today. Who are they?
Well, we're really lucky today. We've got with us Becky Sprinkle and Marty Mundy from down in South Central Indiana, and they really exemplify the thing that we've been talking about, creative aging, having music that's part of your family and part of your community and kind of gives you a sense of purpose and meaning. Becky, what are y'all going to play for us today?
We're going to play a song called Waterbound, and it's a pretty good example of fiddle and singing together is what we're trying to do. So.
Thank you.
Chickens crowing in the old pine tree, chickens crowing in the old pine tree, chickens crowing in the old pine tree down in North Carolina. Waterbound and I can't get home, waterbound and I can't get home, waterbound and I can't get home down in North Carolina. Don't go home, dance with me till morning. Waterbound and I can't get home. Waterbound and I can't get home. Waterbound and I can't get home down in North Carolina. Come on, boys, let's go home. Come on, boys, let's go home. Come on, boys, let's go home before the river rises. Waterbound and I can't get home. Waterbound and I can't get home. Waterbound and I can't get home down in North Carolina.
Becky, Marty, that was fantastic. I love that song. Thank you.
you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for traveling here to Sanborn to be with us. John Kay, Traditional Arts Indiana, you've got a fascinating job, and thank you for visiting us here on the porch today. Miah Michaelson, Indiana Arts Commission, thank you for funding that group, and we're going to keep seeing if we can work on our friends in Indianapolis to help fund arts more in Indiana. Well, let me ask you something. Where are you from, Becky?
Well, I'm from a little town called Branchville, Indiana, in Perry County, Indiana. Grew up on a farm. My dad, 94, still lives on that farm.
Wow, I love visiting Branchville, but I don't like to visit the state facility. That's the place you always want to go, but love Leopold, Indiana.
Leopold's a wonderful little town.
Absolutely. Now, Marty, we're going to hear a couple tunes here that you wrote, correct?
Right.
And what are the names of them?
First one's Martin County Blues, and the second one's Along the Way.
Along the Way. Now, Martin County, so you were born in the Lagodi Shoals area, I assume, saved up enough money to move over into Lawrence County.
Something like that, yeah.
Well, okay. Well, friends, I'm glad you joined us this week on the porch. You know, life can be pretty tough. It can just grind you down. We live in an imperfect world, so I want you to do something for me. This week, if you see someone, they look like they're having a bad week, smile, maybe the only one they get. Take it away, friends.
a spell, sing a tune to yourself, and I'll join you on the porch, on the porch. Means everything to come home, spinning with a vein.